Chapter 32, Battle Plan. A bright light flashed. It enveloped the entire underground cavern where the assistant and his minions eagerly awaited the results of what they had just witnessed. The assistant staggered backward, momentarily blinded. However, he could see that Joel had safely escaped the portal in hot pursuit of his enemy, the giant creature charcoaled with flames. The assistant scrambled to the lever, his slender fingers gripping it forcefully.
Shut it down!
He pulled it just in time for Joel to escape and the giant to be trapped in the other dimension. They could hear the giant's rage at losing his prey before it closed off completely.
Get him!
The assistant's glare was directed at Joel, still gathering himself after his escape through the time portal. Guards with pistols began to gather. Joel turned and ran toward the tunnels as they charged after him. Someone pulled a lever and an alarm began to sound.
Warning, warning. You have entered private property. Shots will be fired if you do not exit within 10 seconds.
The alarm sounded throughout the particle collider room and the tunnels underneath the prison facilities. Joel dodged a few guards as he dashed toward the tunnel's entrance. The monotonous alarm counted down, and they shot at Joel several times before he got safely across the opening. A steel door nearly closed upon him and sealed off the collider room, disappointing the assistant, who wanted nothing more than to catch Joel. The one who not only had invaded his precious time loop experiment, but also held several of the most valuable glowing jewels for which he and Dr. Crowning had been searching.
You fools, he cannot be allowed to escape. Who pulled that alarm? Get that door open now.
Workers scrambled to open the door, but the controls had malfunctioned. The assistant shoved the workers aside to fix it himself. However, there was a small electrical explosion at the panel. It shot sparks at the assistant's face, and he let out a hideous scream. He tore at his cheeks. Part of his skin dangled, and electric wires popped from his flesh. Red blood gushed out beside them. The workers applied pressure to his wound and rushed him to maintenance. Joel glanced at his shoulder and noticed that they had wounded his muscle. Thick blood ran down his arm. He rounded the corner, hiding within a narrow, jagged crevice. Quickly, he ripped his sleeve to secure his arm and stop the bleeding. However, it seemed to be slowly healing like the wound from the serpent creature before. Joel enclosed the light on his watch as the guards managed to open the sealed door and march quickly ahead. Once it was safe, he sprinted in the opposite direction.
Rachel,
Thought Joel.
I need to find Rachel and get her out of here.
Soon he came to another tunnel that branched off. He could see more guards headed his way, so he darted down the new path before they caught him. Joel hoped this cavern would not be as dangerous and possibly lead him outside. Once it opened up, there was no sign of anyone. There was, however, a large gray disc-shaped object. It matched one of the UFOs in the picture Davy had found before. Joel walked around it, amazed at its vast size. This cavern had opened up to what seemed like a mile high. The object had no visible doors or windows. No aliens were popping out. Joel cautiously touched it, running his hands along its smooth, cool surface. Then his hand activated something. It suddenly projected a large beam onto the roof of the cavern. The strange light danced around the stalactites, and Joel began to make out an image. It was a man. Although the rough background distorted the pattern, his 3D projection had come to life. He looked like Jesus, his enormous white robe filling the cave. However, this was not Jesus at all, just a random projection. Thunder began to sound, although there was no storm. The projection floated down into the air, moving and hovering angelically. Then images of other religious figures appeared: Muhammad, Moses, Buddha, and several others. The projections of each one began to merge the figures into one being. Proof of another one of Davy's conspiracy theories about this place. Dr. Crowning would try to convince the world to follow a one-world religion. Joel wondered if these massive schemes would delude the people. He quickly touched the object again, and it shut down. Afraid he had drawn more attention, Joel returned to the main tunnel. Once he saw that the coast was clear, he continued moving forward. Daylight was far off in the distance. However, the cold penetrated his bones, causing his ears to ring. A thick fog with a foul smell blocked his view of the exit. Suddenly, a dark figure emerged. It was the driver, once again.
Where do you think you're going, Ars?
He said in his dark, sarcastic tone. His thick eyebrows furrowed as his body transformed into the hideous, scaly monster he and Rachel had seen in the fog on the road. His distorted head towered above Joel, and Joel's watch intensified into a concentrated beam. No weapons, no way out. The beast lurched toward Joel, just missing his head. Joel shone his light directly into the monster's eyes. It winced, and a large stalactite came crashing down on its neck. Joel dashed toward the exit, while the enemy gathered himself and pursued. The monster spun through the rock, creating new tunnels. Dust flew into Joel's eyes, and he feared the place would collapse. However, somehow, he managed to make it to the exit and escape into the sunlight. The sun blinded him since he had been in the tunnels for a good portion of the night. Thankfully, the beast's vision was also affected as it barreled out of the tunnel, still in close pursuit. Joel ran on, and soon he came to a familiar sight. It was the vendor he and Rachel had seen before. He was still sitting with his merchandise, but quickly rose to his feet when Joel sprinted toward him.
Run!
Joel shouted. However, to Joel's surprise, the man rose slowly and calmly. His face changed from a wrinkled old man into a youthful, glowing one. His body rose upward as his wings spread magnificently. His old, tattered clothing became a sheen of metallic, muscular armor. He withdrew a shield and sword and quickly approached the beast. One swipe at the creature's head was all it took. It fell to the ground, writhing in its black ooze from its neck. A blaze of fire whirled from behind the man and consumed the creature until its body became ashes and dust that blew away in the wind. Now showing himself as an angel, the man flew back toward Joel.
We cannot hold back these beasts much longer. Go. Your family has found your mother.
His voice spoke with thundering authority.
God has saved you and your family. Stay on this path and you will find them. They will give you your weapon before you return for Rachel and her dad. Thomas Katz, whom you know as Pandora, is a descendant of our ancient tribes. He is Rachel's earthly father, and he and Rachel must escape the enemy's grip. Our Lord in heaven will guide and protect you. Keep the faith.
Joel collapsed. The angel revived him, healing his wounds. He did not have time to process the whole story amid the chaos until now. Annika, the one that he saw in the other dimension, was Pandora's wife. They were Rachel's biological parents. The angel disappeared to ward off more enemies before he could ask a question. Joel looked up and prayed, thanking God for sending help and keeping them alive. He glanced at his phone, but saw it had been fried by whatever happened when he was sucked in and out of the portal. Joel began walking on the path as the angel instructed him to do. It did not take long for him to reach an area full of lush greenery, which highly contrasted with the dark tunnels and cavern he had just left. The air smelled sweet, and a great calm helped Joel to relax.
Thank you, Lord.
Joel saw a fresh spring and knelt for a drink. The water was soft and sparkling. It seemed to replenish his very soul as it trickled down his dry throat.
Joel! Joel! Is that you?
Davy cried from a nearby pool.
It is him!
Davy and Chester both raced to Joel's side. Chester barked excitedly, nearly knocking him over. Davy embraced him closely. Joel winced, expecting pain in his shoulder, but it was gone.
Davy! Thank God you are all right. How did you get here?
You wouldn't believe me if I told you. It looks like your shoulder could use some help,
said Davy, examining the bloody strips in Joel's torn clothes.
No, I'm okay.
Said Joel, amazed at it himself.
Come on, you have been waiting to see this.
Davy led Joel a short distance away to the pool where the rest of his family had gathered. In the center of the smiling crowd, someone was waiting for him.
Mom! Mom!
Joel broke into tears as he waded through the water and embraced his mother for the first time in months, which seemed an eternity. The cloth strips fell from his shoulder and the clear blue water cleansed his wound entirely. Everything was surreal, and he almost questioned if they were still alive or if they had gone up to be with the Lord. His mother spoke.
Joel, I've missed you so much.
She embraced him tightly, and Joel felt how emaciated she had become. Despite her condition, her eyes were bright and full of life.
Mom, I can't believe they found you here.
Joel exclaimed.
We thought you were dead until we saw on camera that you had been kidnapped.
Yeah, we have been searching for you for months, Mom.
Davy added.
It seems like years since I've seen your sweet faces.
Lydia's lip quivered as she spoke.
My memories are hazy, but they kept me chained in that underground prison for most of the time. That man with the twisted face tricked me into stepping into some kind of portal through our mirror. They can shapeshift, and
She paused, becoming self-conscious.
You all must think I've lost my mind.
No, Mom. We have seen what they can do.
Said Joel.
That is for sure.
Said Caleb, and all the others agreed.
Let me help you, sweetheart.
Said Savta. She placed her arms around Daniel and Lydia and offered her hand to help Lydia stand.
I should be helping you, Ema Bree,
said Lydia.
Nonsense, I am not as fragile as I look,
said Savta, embracing her.
That's for sure,
said Daniel, pleased to have his Ema back to her old self. Yosef and Rebecca grinned. Brielle embraced Daniel.
I have missed you all, my son,
she said. No one was able to hold back shedding a few tears of joy.
I can't tell you all how glad I am to see you again,
said Lydia. They all gathered around and helped to lift her out of the pool. She looked with apprehension toward the tunnels.
There is still much danger here. The man with the twisted face is Dr. Ahaz. He took me away from our home. He is not only after our jewels, but also after our very lives. He wants to use our family as sacrifices. He says our bloodline matches what is required. That's why he lured us all here to this place. He has many other dark schemes with those who work with Rachel's parents.
I know. Thanks to our guardian angel, at least one of those creatures is dead,
said Joel.
You saw them too?
Asked Davy.
The tunnels are full of them. You should have seen how Savta helped us fight them off,
began Davy, but Joel cut him off.
I'm sorry, but I must go back to Rachel and save her from them. I thought I could handle investigating Dr. Crowning and his minions on my own, but I was wrong. There's no telling what has happened there by now,
said Joel. Davy had never seen Joel look so defeated.
I should have never left her alone in there. I have to go back for her.
His tone sounded desperate yet determined.
God has worked many miracles in healing us and protecting us all,
said Daniel, placing his hand gently on Joel's shoulder.
However, after what your mother has been through, I cannot leave her alone. We will get to Rachel somehow, I promise, but Joel, you have to know what we are up against.
I believe I have an idea,
said Joel, wincing.
I don't have time to explain it all, but I have to get back to her right now. Her life is in danger in more ways than you know.
Can't you see his love for Rachel, Daniel? If I am not mistaken, she is now his wife,
said Lydia, seeing the ring on Joel's finger. Daniel looked up at Lydia and Joel with surprise, then a flash of shame. They all looked at one another with satisfaction about their marriage and a solid resolve to rescue Rachel.
Why doesn't anybody tell me these things?
Davy exclaimed. He, Adam, Caleb, and Levi gave a round of attaboys and pats on Joel's back. Joel could not help but grin a little, but remained focused on his mission.
I'm all right, Daniel,
said Lydia.
God has used the waters of this pool of Siloam to heal me, and your mother has already given me some food. With the soldiers fighting and the bombings, there will not be a clear path to get there. I am feeling much better, really. We have to help Joel get back to Rachel.
Of course we do.
Daniel held on to Lydia, never wanting to let her go, but he knew Joel would need his help.
I am with you, son.
He put his hand on Joel's shoulder.
Whatever it takes, we will find her. We have to get our whole team back together.
We will help you, Joel, no doubt about that,
said John.
You and Rachel are our family.
Savta stepped forward with Joel's sword and shield.
I believe you have your precious stone, dear boy, handed down from the tribe of Issachar.
Joel nodded and thanked her, surprised at Savta's recovery and strength. He turned his watch, revealing his amethyst stone. He removed it using a small latch and placed it in the guard of his sword. Savta also handed him his shield with its jasper stone from Benjamin's tribe. The pattern in the jasper stone swirled magnificently in the center. Savta reminded him of his fencing skills.
Remember, God graciously has provided this weapon to defend us against these unnatural enemies. Our poor young soldiers will soon discover their guns are useless against those creatures' scaly black armor. Godspeed, my boy.
Joel understood. He looked ahead to see the best way to get back to Rachel. The path was steep and rocky. Bombs were going off in the distance.
The way you came out is not the way to go back in,
said Yosef.
That place is known as Gehinnom, the gateway to hell. It is where the ancient Israelites fell into idolatry, offering their children as sacrifices to Baal, a most horrible point in our history.
A strange fog began to flow from the tunnels where Joel had escaped. Its murky stalactites had a dark red tinge, depicting the ancient massacre.
It is not surprising that Prism has chosen this place to embed their facilities. You must stay out of those tunnels. Those people have filled them with their witchcraft. They are attempting to open that gateway but have not yet fully succeeded. We will have to go on foot, but we will go along the edge closer to our temple.
When we arrive, we will be your backup.
Ema, I trust you and John can stay here to guard Lydia and the others.
John and Brielle nodded in agreement.
We will enter straight into the gate, which they will not expect. God will provide protection.
Please be careful, Yosef,
said Rebecca, holding him and Adam tightly. Seeing that Davy and Adam were going, Levi spoke up.
We can come and help too.
Caleb stood beside him, ready to go. Martha looked concerned, but Susie saw how well they had fought earlier. She held them closely, and seeing their determination, she told them to be careful as they went on their way.
Let's get started then,
said Daniel, handing them their shields. Chester, sensing that the group was splitting, began to whine.
It's okay, boy,
said Lydia.
You can go with Joel and the others.
She patted his head, and Chester stood close beside Joel.
Remember, trust no one,
Lydia warned.
Make sure that no one deceives you with their shape-shifting technique.
They prayed for God to protect them, and the men headed up the steep, rocky cliff.